Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone around the world. I'm Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. Luke might be running a little late. Luke's laptop died. Luke has to go home, get a charger. So hopefully, Luke will be joining us. In the meantime, I'm going to play a little something for everybody. A icon, Harry Belafonte, a writer, a singer, actor, civil rights activist, um, passed away today at age 96. For those who don't know who Harry Belafonte is, here's a little something from Harry Belafonte. I'll play a short excerpt. Hey, hey, like on walk, oh, hey. Eli come and one go home. Mr. Belafonte went home today. So, anyways, we are going to talk about villains. Hello, Diana. I hope you could hear that. I hope it came across. Just give me a thumbs up or something if the volume was there. If not, I'll maybe play it a little bit later. There we go. So, creating a villain that's believable. And I know that Luke has got a whole list. Luke has been preparing it. So we will see if Luke is able to make it. Fingers crossed. Creating a believable villain. When you're creating a villain, one of the things that you have to remember is that villain has to be able to do anything. Um, it can't be a character that is going to threaten things and threaten things and threaten things. It's got to be somebody that is capable of following through with the threats that this character makes. Now, when you write this character, as I have lots of villains in this book that I'm writing right now, Rainbow Prophecy. All of my villains have different characteristics. Some are very, very deviant, backstabbing, liars. Um, you also have to give them a personality. Each one has to be believable in that personality to make this somebody that can follow through with the things that you are having them follow through with. Um, as I've done with my character, Jameson. Um, Jameson is a very old vampire that has been through a lot of things, has seen war, has seen famine, has seen just everything for the last 70,000 years. This character is capable of doing all the threats that this character puts out. And as I build this character's background so that you can see what this villain has lived, what this villain has done, you come to realize that, oh my gosh, this villain can do anything. This makes it more believable. And then these little actions and these little conversations that, this villain is perpetrating makes the villain even more believable. So when you're creating a villain, the other thing that you want to remember is that you're also going to have the forces that this villain is up against. And one of the things that you want to look at, cannot a villain have a conscience? Yeah, a villain can have a conscience. How dark do you want to go? I mean, the darker that you go with the villain, the less of a conscience this villain is going to have. So, I have villains that They are willing to only go so far, so many things that they're willing to do. You have people that are going to backstab, that aid your main villain. One of my backstabbers is Grayson. Um, has plans of his own, wants to go up the ladder, and is willing to step on anybody to get there. And again, as you're building this character's background, you have to show that this character is willing to do that. Who are they willing to step on? Who are they willing to put down? So you have the building where you go into your arc with the villain. As the story builds, you're going to create the scenario that is basically the plot of the villain's story. Now, like in past episodes that I've done with T-Paw on the Vellum and Luke on the Hero's Tale, you have your hero and the steps that it takes for your hero to be confronted with what it is, to deny that they are the person, and then to take on the challenge and then make it through and survive it. Same thing kind of applies with your villain. Um, your villain is going to come in to where you basically have certain little things that you know that this person is not good, whether it's lying, whether it's abuse, whether it's whatever the villain's arc is going to contain. Um, you're going to demonstrate some of the atrocities that the villain is capable of. And you're going to build this person up, creature up, whatever your villain may be, and show the essence of what motivates them. Why are they doing what they're doing? Is it because they seek power? Is it because they're greedy? Is it because they just simply hate who they're going up against? Revenge. There's lots of different motives that you can have that will show your character and the growth of that character. But remember, you have to have a backstory for that villain, because again, if you want to make the villain believable, people have to be able to associate with that villain. You're going to have other aspects of the villain that is going to contrast with your, again, let's take like Dexter. Okay, for those that have watched the show Dexter and all that, Dexter is the villain because he's killing people, but he does it with a conscience. He's only making sure that he kills bad people. So the good people in the story, like his sister, are hunting the bad guy. So you have this avoidance. He's got to do everything to cover his tracks, and they got to do everything to find out who it is that's doing these murders. The son with a conscience of the maniacal father with a Napoleon complex. Yes. Anyways, when you look at like the story of Dexter and all that, you're rooting for the bad guy. So you want him to get away with it because he's taking out other bad guys. So your villain, and what makes it believable, again, Dexter, he's a cop. He does forensics. He's a forensic scientist, and he knows the ins and outs of the system. So it makes it very believable that he could be this killer. And he would also know how to cover his tracks to not get caught. So this is the thing about villains, is that in mine's political, so mine knows the political system, the laws, the powers that be, and knows what to do to avoid being dethroned, which makes this character even more threatening to everybody that is underneath them. So when you're creating this character, make sure that you have a personality. Personality is important for all of your characters. especially if you're going to create a believable villain. If you just have your villain showing up out of the blue and is doing bad things, um, it makes it harder to make it believable because you don't know why this killer's doing it. You have to have a why. Um, why is the killer doing this? And again, this goes back to power, greed, those aspects. Um, oh, Luke, I wish you were here. Um, so, some of the villains that you look at in other shows, um, I'm trying to think of some good ones. Diana, if you can think of a good one. Every character has a motivation. Yes. Um, Sometimes that motivation could be, like I said, revenge, power, greed, politics makes a good character. House of Cards, there you go. Everybody in politics is basically a villain, and they're all backstabbing each other. So you could have a story that is all villains when you really think about it. I mean, just look at our political system today. Everybody that's in Congress is a villain to some degree or to some extent. Corruption, what drives that character. Let's look at law enforcement. You have people that go into something with good intent, and maybe because they're afraid to speak up against the authority that seems to be in charge, that they also go along with it and support it. Can the villain be the hero or perhaps turn out to be a hero? Well, that's where I was bringing in like Dexter. Dexter, who is the villain, is also the hero. You know, he's killing bad guys, and you're rooting for that villain. Um, Sometimes, in the case of like politics, you you might be rooting for the lesser of two evils. Kind of look at the elections that we've had, where it's like you look at who's running for whatever position, and it's like, wow, this person does this, this, and this one's corrupt in this, and this way. And I want to be a part of the system because I want to make sure that X candidate doesn't get in office because Y candidate is the lesser of the two evils. And here is Luke to save me as I am just slowly drowning by myself.
Sorry. I am sorry. I I was working on the script while I was getting my rotors and my brakes replaced. And what ended up happening is I was working off of no power. I didn't have the laptop plugged in because I was at an auto shop. And my laptop was just about dead. And I left my charger at my sister's house. So I'm coming to you live from my sister's house right now, which she loves.
Oh, well, thank
um,
you for saving me. I was on a slow drown here. I know that you wrote out the script, and I was like relying on that. And it's just like, okay, I'm just going to follow Luke's lead today. And it's just like, okay, so where do I go? So I kind
yeah,
of covered some things. I'll just let you take over, and I'll reiterate anything that I've already thrown out there.
that's okay. The script actually didn't get completely finished because I had other things to do, but I doubt that we'll be able to get through all of it anyway because we are already 15 minutes into the segment. So we will just start with the basics and move on from there.
All right, take the
um,
lead. Thank you.
no
Oh,
problem. Thank you. That's why I was like, you can cancel if you want. It's okay.
yeah. Whoa, what happened?
Um,
There
that
you go. You're back.
That's the thing. It's fine. All right. So today I wanted to talk about creating believable villains. So that's what this show is supposed to be about. I Lots of people like to just kind of spin the wheel, put a bunch of bad things on the wheel, give it a good spin, and that's your villain. Oh, this one's bad because he's a liar, or this one's bad because he is a murderer, or whatever the case may be. But it takes a lot more than just that to make a believable villain that you actually hate. So, like twisting mustaches and long, arrogant monologues might work in cartoons, but they don't do much to create a believable villain. If you
Right.
want to create a character that evokes real anger, disgust, and hatred, then you'll need to look inward first. You guys have heard me say this before. You always draw from your own experiences and the people that you've met in life. So creating any realistic character always comes from drawing on your own life experiences. Period. This is why we hear write what you know. So often in the writing community, we hear that, and it gets misinterpreted. It doesn't mean that you have to have a working knowledge of dragons, sex work, or rocket science to write about those topics. Google and strangers on the internet basically pretty much have you covered on that. They make great references. When I was researching Miles's character, who I wanted to be a sex worker in LA, I actually found a male sex worker in LA on Twitter and just asked him all my questions. And it was that simple to make sure that I had a reference that could tell me how to write that character. So that's not what writing what you know means. It means that you look at the people and the events in your life and you use your own emotional reactions and experiences to create your characters and their story. So I'm not going to say that the villain is the most important person in the story, because like a lot of writers and writing columns and writing shows, they like to rely on hyperbole to kind of get the point across there. But the truth of the matter is that every character in your story, every element in your story will make or break your story. If you have a weak link in there that doesn't seem believable, your readers are going to roll their eyes every time this character comes on screen, or if they react in some unbelievable way to a situation that's happening. So, like overall, just apply this advice for like every part of your story, every person, and you'll have an engaging story that nobody can put down. That's my opening there. You can add your thoughts to it if you like.
No, I basically already briefly kind of went into that. You have to have your characters have to have a personality, and if they don't have a personality, people aren't going to be able to relate to them. So no personality, no relation, and like you said, they're going to get to that character and go, "Oh my god, all right." So you want them to be able to relate, whether it's good, whether it's bad, doesn't matter. They have to be able to relate to that character.
Absolutely. And it's a good way of drawing on your own life experiences and the people that you know is a great way of avoiding cliches too. You don't get the brainless cheerleader, brainless jock. There's a lot of brainless people in high school, aren't there? Anyway, you don't get these cliches though that get mashed together to where it's like the same character being used and used and used again and again and again in all these different pieces of fiction, where it's like I've already met this character like 6 different times in 6 different books. Drawing on your own life experiences is going to create unique characters.
Yes.
Yeah. So so let's just move on to how we create a believable villain. How do we create one? Let's start with examples of villains that sparked unanimous outrage from the majority of the readership first. So you guys know that I kind of dislike Rowling's personal views, but there's no denying she created a villain everyone wanted to torture to death, resurrect, and repeat the process over and over and over again. And it wasn't Voldemort. Everybody who's read Harry Potter knows exactly who I'm talking about. It was Umbridge. Umbridge was the worst fucking character. Everybody fucking hated her ass. And although she was only a villain that appeared like in one book, she overshadowed the arch villain. She was a total bitch who thought she knew everything and was oh so smug about it. Confidently incorrect all the time. She was just, oh yes, I know what's best because I'm from the ministry and they put me in charge and this is the correct thing. Voldemort's not coming back. And meanwhile, Harry Potter obviously knew that no, bitch, he is coming. Quit telling us that we don't need defense against the dark arts and all this good shit. I do love the books. I can't help it. But she was constantly abusing her power as well. And we all know somebody in our lives or been part of a situation where that's happened to us or we've met this person. Each of us have experienced a situation where there's someone appointed as our superior who can never be wrong and actually causes a situation to worsen. because they are right and they have all the power and they're going to do what they're going to do. And then when it's a whole mess, then they don't take any accountability for it at all. But in Umbridge's case, she got what she deserved, and I'm so happy. Anyway, yeah. So like, we all know someone who's like gleefully cruel, pretends it's in the best interest of those that she's abusing, he's abusing, they're abusing, whatever the case may be. And that's what made her such a universally hated character. We all hated her because we all know Umbridge. We've all been in some form of that situation, and that's why she's so hated. So that's what you need to do when you're creating your villains. Find the raw nerve in your life and poke it. Dissect the
Cersei,
pain. Huh?
Cersei, Game of Thrones. Everyone hated Cersei.
Okay. No, I'm not familiar with Game of Thrones, so you take it away here. Tell me why everybody hated him.
Cersei was this. She wanted to be the queen, and she would lie, cheat, steal, backstab, kill, do anything. Even her brother, who she had an affair with, and corrupted him, and got Jaime Lannister to do anything that she wanted, because again, that brotherly, sisterly love that they had going. You hated every aspect of her. You knew she was going to do something evil, including the death, killing off her own kids, in a roundabout way. So again, you love to hate her. She just, everything she does, and it's believable because you can picture someone in your life that would be just that evil. So yes, there's someone that you love to hate.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So somebody that's like just corrupt with power, basically, or like has such a strong need for to climb the ladder, and has like ambition, over ambitious, to where it doesn't matter who she steps on or who she hurts. I mean, I
Right.
can think of a lot of different people in real life that you could draw on to create that type of character. I mean, you got there's thieves, drug addicts that are like actively in addiction, that might behave that way as well to get what they need. Doesn't matter who they step on, as long as they get what they need. Lots of different you could draw on to create that kind of character.
Right. Well, then you have like here's another aspect of a character you love to hate, like Andy Sipowicz from NYPD. Of
NYPD
course,
Blue.
I bring him back. Well,
You come back to him every show.
he's a drunk. He's a bad cop. He's belligerent, and you love to hate him, and you're waiting for him to just f up again. And the thing of it is that during the show he becomes educated, he becomes woke, he becomes a better human being. So now this character that at the beginning that you hated, you start to like him, you want him to do better, and then you're pissed at him when he f's up. So there's another aspect.
Yeah, that's less a villain and more an anti-hero, I feel like. And I like that idea. I love anti-heroes. I love morally gray characters. They're my favorite. I love to see them grow. They get such great character arcs. So I'm a fan of that.
That's why you love TJ, huh?
I love TJ because it's a little boy who got the short end of the stick and then comes into a fucking power and like goes carry on everybody. That's why I love TJ. I'm like, fuck yeah, we love rooting for an underdog. Get those superpowers, fuck them up.
Now you mentioned anti-hero, which like I talked earlier about Dexter being like the I guess he's the villain, he's the serial killer, but you want him to succeed because he's killing other bad people. So anti-hero,
it's hard to feel bad for the people he kills, so it's like whatever.
right. So villain, anti-hero, he's probably more anti-hero than villain. So yeah.
Or morally gray, something like that. I don't know. Some one of those fits from for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots of different examples of villains that have sparked that kind of rage in you. And what I wanted to discuss today is how we actually make those types of characters and how to present them in a way to where it doesn't fall flat. That it actually elicits that kind of reaction in your readers. So yeah, like drawing on your own experiences for sure. Poking at that raw nerve, very important to kind of get to the bottom of what it was about these other people in your real life or these events that have caused you such pain. Because dissecting that and learning what it is about the person or the situation that sends you into such a wild fury, that's going to be something that your readers will probably also be able to relate to, because it's once you get to the root of it, it's all the same. So once you get to the
Just
root of that.
before you go on, there's been some concern in the chat. Somebody saw a reflection of somebody in a mirror, and Diana's like, girls, I was in the room with you. I saw the reflections. Get out of the house.
No, that's my tycoon. That's my nephew. He's trying to be so quiet so that I can do this show. I love him to death. He has such wide eyes now. He's just stopped in the middle of like opening the fridge, like it was so funny. All right. So my number one tip, other than drawing on your own life experiences, is letting the reader decide for themselves about the villain. And that goes for all your characters, period. You don't want to just tell them how to feel about characters. I hate it when that happens. It's weak writing. I don't like it. It takes all the fun out of it, all the joy out of reading and getting to know the characters.
Yes.
When writers first attempt to write their villains or any characters from personal experience, it tends to come off as, well, personal, because you're drawing off personal experience. So I totally get it. But you don't want it to be obvious in your writing that you, as the author, have a vendetta that extends past the story. The good news is that it isn't difficult to prevent yourself from doing this. It sounds like it would be really difficult, but it's mainly just following the same set of rules that we hear over and over and over again in writing, which is like show, don't tell. So that's probably like one of your biggest tools in your belt. And I'll go more into that in a minute, but well, I'll go over it now. The show don't tell thing, everybody, when they hear it, they're like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what's that even mean? I keep hearing it and I'm so sick of hearing it because it doesn't make any sense. It's relying mostly on action and keeping the self-reflection to a minimum, basically. So instead of just being like, he was a bad person, he did this thing, and then another character going like, I don't like him anymore because he did this. Like you don't want it to be so obvious. You want to get to know the characters the same way that you would get to know another person in real life. So as an example, I did write a little scene that kind of shows what it might sound like if you didn't follow show, don't tell. So if you just told instead of showed, Jerry in this scene is going to be the villain, and we'll just take it from there. Granted, I wrote this in an auto shop in like 5 minutes, so do not judge me on my writing. But here's what I wrote. Jerry shoved the kid and laughed when he started to cry. I'm not above hitting kids when they talk back to me. He took a step toward the kid, about to yell in his face to make him stop crying. That's what his dad always did to him, and it worked just fine back then. Chelsea stood up from her chair and lunged at Jerry. You can't do that to little kids. Chelsea loved Jerry, but he'd been terrible lately, probably because the anniversary of his dad's death was coming up. Jerry's dad was an alcoholic and abusive, so that's probably why he grew up to be so mean too. I can do whatever I want, said Jerry, surprised. He didn't understand why so many people were opposed to violence. That's how he grew up, and it made him toughen up and become the lumberjack of a man he was today. He could win any fight because he had to fight as a kid. It didn't make sense to him that everyone else thought it was wrong to hit people, and for some reason, it was even worse to hit kids. I'm stronger than this kid, and I'm stronger than you, so who's going to stop me? Said Jerry, crossing his arms. He's so smug, thought Chelsea. I don't like him at all anymore. Now, obviously, I wrote that trying to write poorly, but
that was awesome. No, that was perfect.
It wasn't, though. Why wasn't it?
I don't know why it wasn't, but well, you did tell. You told.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
The info dumping, and yep. The saying how you feel instead of expressing it in the moment and letting the reader learn from it and yep. Learning about that character, getting to know the character along with the other characters in the story. Even if the
Right.
other characters already know them, you can still just feed them a little bit. I rewrote it using the advice. Let me know if you think it sounds better.
Okay.
So, rewritten, it says Jerry shoved the kid and knocked him over. When the boy started to cry, Jerry did his best to stifle a laugh, but failed. Yeah, I bet you'll watch your mouth next time, eh? He chuckled, shaking his head at the kid. The kid cried louder, a sound like spikes in Jerry's eardrums. The damn brat didn't even get a backhand, and he was crying. He advanced on the kid, bellowing, if you don't quit your God blessed sniveling, my sister hates GD. If you don't stop your God blessed sniveling, I'll. Chelsea stood up from her chair and lunged at Jerry, who sidestepped out of her way. He's just a little kid. What the hell, Jer? He side eyed the kid, sneering at his red, blotchy face. He was never like that as a boy. You know what? I do what I want, he said in a low voice. Always have, always will. You know that, Chelsea. I haven't changed. Chelsea looked away from him, examining the back of the boy's head for a lump. You've always been an ass, but this is going too far. If people don't like getting pushed around, they should toughen up. Jerry scowled at the kid pointedly, and the boy stopped mid-sniffle. And you should go to therapy, shouted Chelsea, her face bright red with rage, a vein popping out in her forehead. You can't keep going through life blaming your dad for everything you do. Jerry tensed, clenched his jaw, and just stared at her for a moment. Taking a deep breath, he slid his eyes to the boy again. Slowly, sorry, I forgot how to swallow spit. Slowly, purposely, he told him, you should toughen up. I don't think we should see each other anymore. Chelsea took the kid by his hand and left the shop. So that sounds kind of bare, I realize. But what did you notice in that?
Well, you didn't tell. You just kind of, you still don't really know if he's a bad guy. You know that you may not like this guy, and you get the impression that he may be abusive. I mean, he just smacked a kid. So yeah, you definitely didn't. The first time you dumped, I thought the first one was well written, and then when you said, "Well, what did I do wrong?" and it's just like, "Oh, you told, okay," and here you didn't tell, but you kind of hinted. So yeah, you're building the character up. You're gonna have to find out more as you read. So yes, perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
And I'm not saying that you should always show and never tell. If you got a side character or something like that, that you just need to get that information out to the reader and it's not really that important and it's not somebody that they're going to be with, for the entire book or something, and you just need to get that out there, the first scene works perfectly. But for your major villain, you want to piece it out. And for any of your major characters that's going to be with your readers for an extended period of time, piece it out. That way they have time to get to know them and feel like they've actually developed a relationship with these characters, the same way that they do in real life with people.
Right.
Yeah.
So definitely. I have a character that starts out where you think he's a good guy because he brought a new client to my main character only to find out that he had alternate motives.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, ooh, and then you start to see how evil this guy is as certain actions take place, especially the horse scene. I mean,
the horse scene was, that one.
Yeah, I actually redid it. You're going to love it.
You did. I can't wait to read it.
Yep.
I can't wait to get it in my inbox. It's going to be so fun. Okay, well, we talked a little bit about the difference of the scene, but I also have a little part in my script here where I wanted to talk about my how I broke it down. So in the first scene, you probably feel like you learned a whole lot more about Jerry than in the second scene. We readers know his dad was an abusive alcoholic. He thinks having power gives you permission to use it however you like. And his dad's death anniversary is coming up. So those are three major things that we learned from the very first scene about Jerry. So lots of writers will excuse this scene because it lends insight into their villain's motives and backstory, and writers really want to share all their juicy bits on the page, like right up front. They took the time to build it up, and they're like, guys, look at this. And I can appreciate that, I can. But for the same reason fantasy writers aren't describing every constellation in their fantasy world, in their fantasy world sky, we should hold back some of the details of our characters' backstories. It's fine to hint at them and tease them out. That's actually what makes reading fun. So, when's the last time you read a book and you didn't try to get the character's backstory or the villain's motives? I mean, I'm always sitting there trying to guess the end of movies and everything, like, oh, what's going to happen next? Or is this guy a good guy or a bad guy? Like, that's a lot of the fun for me. And I feel like you kind of rob your readers of that if you're not careful about how much you give and how you present it. So you want to peel back their layers and uncover portions of them at a time. Then one day someone might come up and say, Chelsea did this, but we'll be so intimately familiar with Chelsea that we'll go, that's bullshit. Who'd you hear that from? We'll know that character. We're like, Chelsea didn't do that shit. I already know she's been set up. Like, I already know.
Exactly.
Unless she got possessed or something. Is there like a magic spell on Chelsea? Like, I know Chelsea's character. I've been with her through 3 books. I know. Or 17 chapters. Chelsea wouldn't do that.
Yep.
So, like in the first scene, the problem is that you're spoon feeding all of the juicy details to the reader. It reads like a list of facts. You want it to be messy, teasing, and even a little bit vague. Because that's what it's like interacting with actual human beings. Or maybe it's just what it's like for me because I'm neurodivergent and I never understand what anybody's doing. I'm like, I'm trying to figure you out. I don't know. Can you just tell me the answer?
Just like Dana said, make us want it. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Glad to see you here, Dana. Okay, so in the second scene, the reader can infer that Jerry had a rough childhood and that a lot of the things he's saying in dialogue are things he learned in childhood or things that he's saying to himself. Like, oh man, I can't believe this kid's crying. Like he didn't even get backhanded. I just pushed him, like you can kind of tell that something might not be right with the way that Jerry was raised.
Right.
So there's a little bit to him there. When he's reflecting to himself in the second scene, he's surprised the kid is crying from being pushed when he didn't even get backhanded. That gives the reader some insight into his character without spelling it all out for them. So, we lost the death day anniversary for Jerry's dad, but it doesn't have to be in the scene. It can be in the next scene, or it can be on the day itself, like the day of the death anniversary. You could do that. You could have Chelsea call him up on the day up because she knows, that's a rough day for him. And maybe like he gets, like maybe last year he drank too much and went out driving too fast on a curvy back road and like flipped his truck 4 times or something. Who knows? But, like maybe that's why she calls and checks. Ari says, this is making me more excited about Heart Drive. Yay! I can't wait to read Heart Drive. That's the one with the car wreck right up front, isn't it? I know Gora was doing one with the car wreck. Maybe I'm getting the 2 mixed up, or maybe you guys are both writing car wrecks. I'm not sure. But I remember the opening scene, I think was that there was a car wreck or something in there. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just getting them mixed up. I'm glad that it's getting you excited for writing though. Okay, so she could call him up and talk to him a little bit, and then that's how we find out that his dad's death anniversary was coming up. And you're right, Ari, it was Gora. I remember now because it was like a semi or something that got involved, and it was crazy. And there's like all this goo. Oh, it's creepy. I can't wait. That's how you get your readers invested. You just give a little bit at a time. That's all.
Yes. No, definitely. I mean, I'm slowly doing that in my book. I've been Diane has been my go-to right now. Every Sunday I'm reading chapter by chapter to Diana, so she's getting it step by step, and Shadow Fox, and they're just like, okay, you're leaving us there. We want more, because I'm giving more and more of the characters as you go, and I got quite a few bad characters. Before you came on, I was talking about how, like, when you get into politics, your whole story can be about bad characters because they're all corrupt. So this is kind of what I'm bringing into this, is that I have my main character, but I also have a lot of secondary characters that are predominant throughout. And you're learning more and more about them in a greater depth and their personalities and the evil that they are, and how some will only go so far. But again, as you get to know it, it's just like, that guy wouldn't do that, but that guy will. And then it's like, oh no, could he do that? Could he? Will he go that far? Where is his alliance going to be? So yeah, all of that stuff is important, because as you're building up that personality, it keeps the reader just intrigued as to, well, who's going to do what, who's on whose side.
Yeah, whenever politics or any kind of major powerful group of people are together, all of them basically end up being villains in some way, shape, or form. I love that dynamic too. It's just kind of like they might bomb the hospital, but maybe like, but only because like they're trying to like save like 6 hospitals or something, like if that's the protagonist, but they're still bombing a hospital, like it's still yeah. So I like that dynamic. That's really cool. I can't wait to kind of delve into that. And keeping your characters flawed, even the ones that are supposed to be the protagonist, is an excellent way of avoiding the Mary Sue problem that people run into, that or what people are constantly complaining about, like, oh, this character can never do any wrong. They never do anything wrong at all. They never make a mistake. They're just perfect forever and ever and ever. And and that's your protagonist. Like, you won't let them make a mistake or let them do anything wrong, because you're trying to keep them pure so that your readers like them. But your readers can't relate to a Mary Sue character because they make mistakes and they've been wrong before. So you need to make sure that if your protagonist is making those kinds of is making mistakes, or being or whatever, doing something that's maybe not so awesome or moral, then they're doing it for the right reasons. At least make it justified so that they're still likable, but and they can come back from it. But you don't want to make them like a goody. So I agree with that. I don't have really anything else on my script except for how to choose villain characteristics. I was starting to rewrite the scene with Jerry and Chelsea, but I didn't finish it. So the rest of this is just us winging it after I finish reading this last part of the script, which is fine because it looks like we only have about maybe 17 minutes left, something like that. So it's perfect.
Motivations of your bad guys. You definitely have to have motivations which make sense. You have to have a reason why they're acting out in the way they do. And whether it's a grasp for power, whether it's revenge, you definitely have to have motive. And if you don't have motive, just even for your good guys too, everybody's got to have motive for their actions. So that's one of the things that I tried to iterate at the beginning, was motive. You got to have that for your characters. There's got to be something that drives them in the direction that they're going.
Okay. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Like if if you have a character that is historically not selfless, like they're only looking out for themselves, they're all about their own survival, all that good stuff, and all of a sudden they're tasked with protecting this complete stranger for no reward whatsoever, nothing in it for them, and he just goes along with it. That doesn't make sense. Like, you're going to need to give him some kind of motivation to protect this complete stranger that he doesn't give a shit about. What about when mental health plays a role in the motive as well as love, lust, obsession? Yeah.
Right. It's still motivation. Yes. If somebody has mental health issues, then the motivation behind that character acting that way would be that mental health issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the person, the character that you are creating may not have a mental awareness of a motivation. It could be something that is affecting them, that they don't even know about. Say you have somebody that is disabled, they may have this inner need to try to show that they don't need help from anybody. And even though they won't say that, no, I don't need your help, that can still be the motivation that they're not even recognizing that that's what's driving them.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important whenever you have mental health playing a role in a motive is to make sure that you are handling that with tact and be delicate with it. You don't want to spread harmful stereotypes at all. So
Right.
if you've got somebody who is, let's say, suffering from schizophrenia, you want to make sure that you've done your research on that. You want to make sure that you are talking to other people who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia and making sure that you are not perpetuating a harmful stereotype that all people who are schizophrenic have violent tendencies, because that's not really the case, I don't believe. So you have to tread delicately with that kind of thing whenever you do have a villain with a mental illness or any kind of, because it could come off as ableist.
Right. Well,
A character, if you do something that.
nope, you're kind of rugging a little bit there.
Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still
you
here.
Back?
Yep.
Okay, you're like completely frozen. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if it
probably
was you
my internet.
Yeah,
it's probably my internet. It's not what it is. Where did I leave off?
You were talking about not to put a stereotype on people with disabilities. I mean,
right. So yeah, so just make sure that you do your research on it first. Make sure you talk to people who actually have schizophrenia, and make sure that you're not perpetuating harmful stereotypes on that. And at the same time, if you have somebody with a mental illness as your villain, I strongly encourage you to have other characters who are not villains, who are actually good people that have mental illnesses as well, possibly even the same mental illness as the villain, just to kind of balance it out and show that you're not demonizing one person for a mental illness, or right. Demonizing the mental illness by having only one character with that mental illness, and they end up being evil.
Right. And you also have to recognize that, like, my main character, Jameson, is a narcissistic psychopath, sociopath. Okay. Absent of true emotions. And when you're expressing someone like that, you want to employ them with instead of saying that they're a sociopath or a narcissist, you have to just simply imply that, because quite frankly, most of your villains are going to have some narcissistic characteristics anyways. I mean, that's just the nature of being a villain. So, and it's not so much that it is a recognized mental illness medically as it is. I mean, look at most of the CEOs of companies today. Most of them are sociopaths. You basically got to be a sociopath to run a business. And that's not to say that they all are. Okay. But I'm just saying. But you also have to make it believable in relation to the example I just gave. Look at people that run corporations, their eccentric aspects, their narcissistic aspects, the things that they put out there. Those are good features to have in your villain, without, calling out a mental illness. I'm not going to be calling my main villain a narcissist or a psychopath, because people that have those kind of mental illnesses that are actually diagnosable, I don't want to, again, stereotype like you were just talking about, but my characters are that mental.
He gets stuck as a roommate. Okay, hang on, wait a minute. I screwed up. The other character is the main character, Trey, who has a severe anxiety, depression, suicide ideation tendencies, and he gets stuck as a roommate with the eventual villain Samuel in a mental hospital. That's interesting. I actually read a book by one of my good friends, Alistair Karadec, The Old Love and the New, where the character, I believe it was schizophrenia that he was diagnosed, schizoaffective disorder. That's what it was. And um, Samuel is a villain with worse mental health issues and criminal background. Okay, so that's a real that was like our example just now that we were discussing is having
Right.
two characters with mental illnesses. One is, like not the villain, and the other one is the villain, and we're
Right.
showing that mental illness isn't what caused you to be the villain.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
how you are the person. Very good. I love that. Yeah, it's very nice.
Right.
All
Right.
right,
Because
cool.
again, even with the example that she just displayed there with like the characters that I have, the form of ritual and everything that they have, which is kind of narcissistic in itself, even the good guys have that same narcissism to some degree. So yeah, no, that's excellent. I love the way. The other part of her
Ari just
question,
um, Ari just
huh?
made me. Ari just ensured that I'd read her book.
The other aspect that she had was as well as love and lust obsession. Now, are you talking for the villain or are you talking just writing in general? Because, love and lust obsessions can be a huge part of it because that plays a huge role in my book.
Mhm. Love and lust as a motive. I mean, wars have been fought over love and lust. Like that's a
Yeah,
great motive. Period. I
yeah.
mean, the
Helen
only
of Troy, you
the
know.
main, I think the main thing that we got to pay attention to whenever we're choosing characteristics for a villain or any character is by, well, I'll just read what I wrote on my script. I said, we already went over how to build a villain you've low to your core, but you also have to be careful how you present it. In the above scene, did we really hate Jerry? He's a child abuser, so we should just hate him, right? But did you really feel anything in that scene? I didn't feel much while writing it, to be honest. And rereading it, the emotion just isn't really there. Yeah, hitting kids is wrong and inexcusable, but I didn't want to rip Jerry into teeny tiny pieces either. The reason why is because just putting some bad things on a wheel and giving it a good spin doesn't create a believable villain. Hitting, lying, cheating, essay, all of those are horrible things, but they're just words if you don't add visceral emotion and reaction to them. So the reason why I wanted to read that is because that's the same thing for motives as well. Like you can't just be like, this is their motive and then not give any emotion behind it or any drive behind it to get it to go forward. Or else it's just going to read as, oh yeah, he wants to have sex with this person, so that's why he's doing this. And it without the emotion behind it, it's not going to do it.
Exactly. You definitely have to have the emotion behind it. And you also have to make that, again, if you're going to use love or lust, as a motive, you have to make that character, believable that they have a problem with love or lust.
Hmm.
Um, again, how many relationships has he or she been in? How many times have he or she been divorced, or how many times has there been abuse, or whatever may be the case in the relationship? Is it? I think Diana said obsession. Instead of actually being
Mm-hmm.
lust or love, is it actually obsession? And that aspect, love or lust, is used in the case as what the obsession becomes. So you have many different aspects that you can apply, that where again you may not know that the obsession is, or that the motive is obsession. You might think it's love by the way that you're writing that character, and then down the road you reveal that it's obsession, that this person has an obsessive possessive obsession disorder of some sort, where whatever it is that's put before them, they become obsessed with, ownership, or obsessed with, I have to be a part of it, or I have to be, some aspect of it, So yeah, it could become a lot of things. So there's a lot of different ways that you can illustrate that.
Yeah, one example of a character motivated by love, lust, obsession would be Joe from the show You on Netflix. We see at the very beginning, like if going in, you wouldn't think that, he was stalking this lady or whatever. It sounds like being of a relationship, like, oh, when I met you, I was just so, like just the way you smile and all this good stuff. And you like this book. And so I get this book. And I just think that you're just so deep and everything. And it sounds like, it's the beginning of a relationship. And then you quickly start realizing some of the shit you're doing is kind of freaky, Joe. What are you? And then you're like, oh, you're a stalker. Got it.
Well, another thing that you can play into it is secrets. Secrets could be a motivation. Did you ever watch The Sopranos?
No.
Okay. Anyways, the main character of The Sopranos was seeing a shrink, and in the mob, you don't see a shrink. So he had to hide the fact that he was seeing a shrink, and that gave motivation to kill anybody that found out. So, so hiding something that may not be acceptable, could be something that is motivation for certain actions. You could actually write a story behind that type of motivation. So, but you have to have motivation of some sort.
Yeah, that was basically the motivation for Julian, like not wanting to get close to anybody in Rumworld, and kind of like his distance because he didn't want anyone to find out he was gay. It's like a offensible by where he's from. So a lot of his pulling away, he acted with him trying to keep that secret. So just thinking of something to come back. Not bad. I just pulled that out of nowhere.
Yeah. I just went to the Twitter feed to see if it was you freezing up or me freezing up. It's you. It's you.
It's always me. It's always me. I'm the problem. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yes.
I don't know why
All right.
I can't cable internet ever.
At the beginning of the show, you missed my intro. I came on with a little piece from Harry Belafonte. You remember the song Deo, the Banana Boat? Yes. Age 96. He passed away today.
No, not Deo, dude.
Yes. Harry Belafonte, civil rights activist, author, singer, musician. Yeah, he passed away today at age 96, congestive heart failure.
Sucks.
Yeah. So I don't usually bring up these, there's a lot of people that have passed here in the last year, and I don't usually bring up that many, but Harry Belafonte is just, somebody that, oh man, it hurts.
Yeah.
I don't usually get affected by a lot of people that pass away. This one I feel.
Yeah, I felt that way about Robin Williams. I think that's the only one that really affected me hard. But Deo, dude, every time I hear Deo, I think of Beetlejuice. Like the end.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom. Oh, it wasn't really. Oh, it was the end scene, but it was also the dinner scene too.
Yeah.
They did Deo. I love Deo. That's going to start all day now, though.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming in and saving me. I appreciate it. I was starting to fail there, and you brought up a lot of other things that I would not have covered. I just simply would not have thought about it right off the bat unless somebody mentioned it in the comments. I would have been just like, anyways, thank you again. And next week, once I confirm it, I gotta give Daigle a call, but next week we'll probably have Daigle on here.
Cool.
So.
Now give me 2 weeks to write a script. I'll probably still wait till the last minute. Watch.
Yes. I'm hoping here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I will have Rainbow Prophecy done. I will be sending it out to the select few that I've already talked to give me a beta read on it before I submit it. So hopefully I won't have to make too many changes. I'm so excited about this. I am just, oh my God, this book has just become, oh my God, oh, I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. I'm loving it.
Excited to read it. I think it's going to be really good. And if it's not, I'll tell you.
Yes. Yes. When I read to Diana chapter 7, she got her first taste of the Druids, and I read a part to you from that chapter where I mentioned your book in the yes. But yes,
And
I have
Ari,
books in my book, so
I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be really cool. I hope they read yours and go and read mine. That would make me happy inside. But
yeah.
Ari said this was great, thanks, and that she loved this topic. So thank you, Ari. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was great having you here. It made me happy inside.
Yes, definitely, and same with Dana. Thank you, Dana, Diana, our
Oh yeah,
wife.
and Dina, yeah, she popped in just like I saw her earlier.
Yep. All right, everyone, remember, be happy, be kind, and may good things come your way.
Meow.
Meow.